Good morning. Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I didn't give you enough time to say good morning. I'm Christy Grant, member of the church's Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Today, we're continuing to meet virtually using Zoom, as well as in person at the Admiral at the Lake and here in the 2U Sanctuary. We ask everyone's indulgence for the complications of this three-part service. We're glad you're here, regardless of your mode of attending. In Zoom, you'll notice a chat feed available where you can say hello, interact, and share your joys and concerns when we reach that time in the service. You could also use Zoom closed captioning through the live transcript option. When we would traditionally sing together and read things in unison, which some of us will be doing in Zoom, you're encouraged to do so as well, even though you are either masked or unmute. Our voices echo through the world, so we will hear one another if we listen closely and sing with our full spirit. We're paying close attention to COVID recommendations. This could mean change, well, it's always meant changes at any time, but for now, we recognize that masking and physical distancing still are acts of love and protection. The most recent information about all of that is on the Second Unitarian website. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we are excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you're new to us today, you're welcome to note that in the Zoom chat or mention it in person during chats after the service. You can also fill out a yellow form found in your order of service in the sanctuary and at the Admiral Lake. For those of you worshiping here in the sanctuary at 2U, we are not currently passing the collection plate, but if you'd like to make a donation in person, you can place it in the white box on the wall just outside the sanctuary doors, either before or after the service. Well, after the service now. There are envelopes at the welcome table if you'd like to use one after the service. You may also, just like our Zoom and Admiral at the Lake participants, text your donation to Second Unitarian. The information is in your order of service, and you'll see it on the slides as well. Our worship today is led by the young adults of Second Unitarian: Gail, Elena, Elaine, Abigail, Ellen, Lana, Ben, April, Rachel, and others. The young adult group is a group for adults ages 18 to 35. They meet for group activities about twice a month over Zoom and are moving toward in-person as things open up again. The goal of the group is to be a home base for younger congregants. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, and the technical production. They are listed in the order of service, and we thank them for their ongoing service to our congregation. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. Second Unitarian is currently considering adopting the proposed 8th principle for Unitarian Universalism, which is, and if you know it by now, feel free to say this out loud along with me. It goes, "We covenant to affirm and promote journeying through spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." If you are interested in discussing this proposal, join us today here for a community conversation on the 8th principle. It'll be in person here at 2U in Fleshman Hall from 1 to 2:30 today. Also, come learn Spirit of Life in American Sign Language. Abigail Klein will lead a step-by-step workshop on singing our congregational hymn at noon today at the Admiral at the Lake, and also next Sunday, April 10th, here in the 2U Sanctuary. A Zoom option will also be available for next Sunday, April 10th. The event is co-sponsored by the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry and the Music Committee. All are welcome to attend. You can find more information and additional announcements in your order of service. I now welcome Ellen Rocket to lead our call to worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, as you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together. In just a moment, Lana on Zoom, April at the sanctuary, and I at the Admiral will light our chalice, the symbol of our faith. Our words this morning are from Richard Gilbert.
And now I'm going to read Life is Always Unfinished Business. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath, relax your body, loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to complete the drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process, and always there is more to be done. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your every day. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of incomplete, for life is unfinished business.
Number 7, The Leaf Unfurled.
sorrowing. No one can know what the next hour will bring. We cry, we laugh, we mourn, and still we sing.
Please join me in reciting our covenant. The words will be on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion. Please join Gail Gallagher in singing our congregational hymn, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Now, for Time for All Ages, if you are young or young at heart, feel free to come up for our Time for All Ages story. So, today's story is from a collection called Book of Silly Stories and Songs by Diane Good. Here it is adapted from a shanty tale from the West African coast. But before that, I just want to say, read a little bit of the introduction. The world is full of such silliness, but it does not seem to be a place that it is free from. Someone is always saying or doing a funny thing that makes us laugh, and how wonderful it is to laugh. Laughter is the language that everyone understands. Who can stop themselves from laughing at the foolishness of others? Although it may not be nice, it could be that laughing allows us to feel glad where we are, instead of in their shoes. But also, maybe, they remind us just a little of ourselves. In laughing at them, we are able to laugh at our own shortcomings. After all, we could all use a little more common sense. The people in these stories surely need some. And as part of this service, I chose this story because I think it's a wonderful example of how sometimes the silliness just keeps on coming, and you have to learn how to roll with it. So, once, not far from the city of Accra on the Gulf of Guinea, a countryman went out to his garden to dig up some yams to take to market. While he was digging, one of the yams said to him, "Well, at last you're here. You never weeded me, but now you come around with your digging stick. Go away and leave me alone." The farmer turned around and looked at his cow in amazement. The cow was chewing her cud and looking at him. "Did you say something?" he asked. The cow kept on chewing and said nothing, but the man's dog spoke up. "It wasn't the cow who spoke to you," the dog said. "It was the yam. The yam says, 'Leave him alone.'" The man became angry because his dog had never talked before, and he didn't like his tone besides. So he took his knife and cut a branch from a palm tree to whip his dog. Just then, the palm tree said, "Put that branch down." The man was getting very upset about the way things were going, and he started to throw the palm branch away, but the palm branch said, "Man, put me down softly." He put the branch down gently on a stone, and the stone said, "Hey, take that thing off me." This was enough, and the frightened farmer started to run for his village. On the way, he met a fisherman going the other way with a fish trap on his head. "What's the hurry?" the fisherman asked. "My yam said, 'Leave me alone.' Then the dog said, 'Listen to what the yam says.' When I went to whip the dog with a palm branch, the tree said, 'Put that branch down.' Then the palm branch said, 'Do it softly.' And then the stone said, 'Take that thing off me.'" "Is that all?" the man with the fish trap asked. "Is that so frightening?" "Well," the man's fish trap said, "did he take it off the stone?" "Ah!" the fisherman shouted. He threw the fish trap on the ground and began to run with the farmer, and on the trail they met a weaver with a bundle of cloth on his head. "Where are you going in such a rush?" he asked them. "My yam said, 'Leave me alone,'" the farmer said. "The dog said, 'Listen to what the yam says.' The tree said, 'Put that branch down.' The branch said, 'Do it softly,' and the stone said, 'Take that thing off me.'" And then, the fisherman continued, "The fish trap said, 'Did he take it off?'" "That's nothing to get excited about," the weaver said. "No reason at all." "Oh, yes, it is," his bundle of cloth said. "If it happened to you, you'd run too." "Oh!" the weaver shouted. He threw his bundle on the trail and started running with the other men. They came panting to the ford in the river and found a man bathing. "Are you chasing a gazelle?" he asked them. The first man said breathlessly, "My yam talked to me, and it said, 'Leave me alone.' And my dog said, 'Listen to your yam.' And when I cut a branch, the tree said, 'Put that branch down.' And the branch said, 'Do it softly.' And the stone said, 'Take that thing off me.' The fisherman panted, "And my trap said, 'Did he?' The weaver wheezed, "And my bundle of cloth said, 'You'd run too.'" "Is that why you're running?" the man in the river asked. "Well, wouldn't you run if you were in their position?" the river said. The man jumped out of the water and began to run with the others. They ran down the main street of the village to the house of the chief. The chief's servants brought his stool out, and he came and sat on it to listen to their complaints. The men began to recite their troubles. "I went out to my garden to dig yams," the farmer said, waving his arms. "Then everything began to talk. My yam said, 'Leave me alone.' My dog said, 'Pay attention to your yam.' The tree said, 'Put that branch down.' The branch said, 'Do it softly.' And the stone said, 'Take it off me.' And my fish trap said, 'Well, did he take it off?' the fisherman said. And my cloth said, 'You'd run too,' the weaver said. And the river said the same, the bather said hoarsely, his eyes bulging. The chief listened to them patiently, but he couldn't refrain from scowling. "Now this is a really wild story," he said at last. "You'd better all go back to your work before I punish you for disturbing the peace." So the men went away, and the chief shook his head and mumbled to himself. "Nonsense like that upsets the community." "Fantastic, isn't it?" his stool said. "Imagine a talking yam."
Good morning, everyone. Each year, we all make a commitment, a pledge to support the ministry of our church. In addition to this contribution, each Sunday we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice beyond our church community. While we are unable to come together in person all in one place, you can still share your resources. To make your contribution, you can send a text and follow prompts. We will have the number on your screen as the music plays for the offertory. For the month of April, we are sharing our plate with Chicago Eco House. Chicago Eco House is an amazing place in the Englewood community. They work with youth leaders on 3D printing, flower farms, gardening, business making, food sustainability, and more. They are making a serious positive impact on the economic advancement of this community through youth. And this morning, we will hear some words from Barb Michael.
Chicago Eco House rebuilds lives and transforms neighborhoods, starting with high school students who create a positive atmosphere which ripples throughout the lives of others in their communities. It has expanded not only from Englewood, but out to Woodlawn, Washington Park, West Garfield Park, and Detroit as well. It uses sustainability to help alleviate poverty and is an urban workforce development program staffed by young Black students who are creating beauty from vacant lots. Its founder, Quillen Blackwell, says, "I see a flower farming future, as well as other agricultural products on vacant lots all across the United States. Selling flowers has provided entrepreneurship experience. The flowers are produced locally, so they don't need to travel long distances, which require refrigeration and fumigation. Their flower bouquets are wrapped with discarded Southside weekly newspapers and kept moist and placed in compostable bags. Their solar system operates the lots 100% off the grid. That flower shop, Southside Blooms, has shown students they are valued members of their community." Blackwell comments, "Young people who are involved with gang activity do so because they are seeking that sense of belonging. We created and have offered Chicago Eco House and Southside Blooms as a place where they can feel like they are part of something and belong. Thank you for your contributions, and know that their tulips will be ready the beginning of May, but should you want to reach out to support them in that way. And in the meantime, some of you may consider ordering online or possibly volunteering to help Chicago Eco House and Southside Blooms." Thank you.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are in your order of service and on your screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I invite you now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. Let us start by breathing together. I invite you to center your body, your feet on the floor, and breathe in and out. We begin in thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way, especially the folks in Ukraine. We pray for our planet and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate change. We pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. For those locked in concentration camps at the border, held in cages and inhumane conditions, for those in ICE detention centers here in Chicago, we are with you and commit to doing more. For those struggling with fear and anxiety right now, we offer our prayers of comfort and care. For those who face the loss of a job, financial resources, and security right now, we offer solidarity and a commitment to share what we can. For those struggling with the impact of isolation, we promise to reach out with love. Into this shared silence, I invite you now to speak the name of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of this community. My family. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen, and blessed be. At this time, I will light 2 candles, one representing the joys and celebrations we are experiencing, and another representing the concerns and sorrows we are holding. As we wish to return to our congregational ritual of lighting candles for our joys, concerns, and sorrows, we want to maintain our safety and comfort with each other. In the sanctuary, you are invited to come up and get a candle from the usher, or have the usher light the candle for you. As you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer available so that we can all be clean and safe together in our service. For our friends at the Admiral at this time, I invite you to come forward and take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly, putting your energy into the stone, and then, knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. And for our friends on Zoom, join us by sharing your joys and concerns in our chat window. We hold all these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts. April Neander will now share our first reading.
Through a kaleidoscope, the world becomes fractured, divided 24 ways in symmetrical pieces. A single candle flame becomes 24 flickering candles, each a perfect replica of the other. The mundane is exquisite when it is placed in a pattern of identical squares. The ordinary becomes the mystical when it is seen through a prism. Is this how life is? If only we step back enough to see it all? A kaleidoscope of events joining, merging, dancing in rhythmic harmony? Could we appreciate the order of life if we were not one of the fragments? But we are in it, of it, not observers of the pattern, but part of the very texture of which it is constructed. There may be a plan, but we will never be able to stand back far enough to appreciate it. Somewhere, life may make sense to a great cosmic someone, but not to us here. Not to us splintered in a struggle to do what is right in a world that presents us with complex, competing options. We may never see the larger picture, creation's perfect whole. We may be forever flickering fragments, fractured by the raw reality of immediacy from which there is no escape while we are alive. Well then, let us dance in the flame that we see. Let the arc of our creativity embrace our moments of time, and let us add our light to the kaleidoscope, trusting in the unity of the whole, even as we seek symmetry with the part.
Are you kidding me? I'm getting sick of the industry. I've had enough of the make-believe. Oh please, am I lost or found? I'm getting sick of the ups and downs. No need to give me the runaround. I'm out.
Yeah, this is gonna kill me, but I won't let it. Yeah, they try to give me hell, but I won't take it. So I tell myself when I sleep at night, don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight. They try to get me up, but I won't give in. And this life will get you down, but I keep living. So I tell myself when I sleep at night, don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight. Hey! Don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight. Don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight.
Are you kidding me? I'm getting sick of the in-between. Running in place isn't interesting to me. Am I good enough? Does that even matter, or is it luck? I'm checking the prices on giving up. Now what?
Yeah, this is gonna kill me, but I won't let it. So I try to give them hell, but they don't get it. So I tell myself when I sleep at night, don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight. Try to get me up, but I won't give in. And this life will get you down, but I keep living. So I tell myself when I sleep at night, don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight.
this ain't ever gonna change. It ain't ever gonna change. It ain't ever gonna change. And this ain't ever gonna change. It ain't ever gonna change. It ain't ever gonna change.
Yeah, this is gonna kill me, but I
And
won't
this
let
ain't
it.
ever
So I
gonna
tried it in the hell, but they don't.
It ain't ever
So I
gonna
tell myself when I
change.
sleep at
Ain't ever gonna
night,
change.
don't lose sight. They
Try to get me up, but I won't give in. And this time will get you down, but I keep living. So I tell myself when I sleep at night, don't lose sight, baby, don't lose sight.
To explain the title of the service, Rick Rolling is an internet joke that keeps going more than a decade in, sort of a classic April Fool's for the internet. Back in the early days, pranksters would post click-worthy links to videos like game promos or never-before-seen fan footage. Only the link always went to Rick Astley's 1987 hit, Never Gonna Give You Up. The running joke got more sophisticated as people worked the lyrics into term papers, played the song at major sports games, and once even got Nancy Pelosi in on it. Like a good April Fool's joke, Rick Rolling gets you with the bait and switch of setting up hope for something good but delivering the same old news. Getting Never Gonna Give You Up instead of hilarious Muppet bloopers is pretty small potatoes on a scale of problems, but the disappointment is there nonetheless. Being pranked forces you to choose laughter over confused frustration. Sometimes the prank can even draw admiration for the level of effort required to set up the punchline. But either way, you have to buckle up and get on board with the absurdity of the joke, or suffer the indignity of being seen to lack a sense of humor.
Hello. All right. What does it mean to get rickrolled by the universe? For me, it feels less like a prank and more like an ongoing series of inside jokes and scene changes. I see the universe, or whatever I'm calling God today, as an improv partner. When things shift and change and fall apart, I see it as an initiation to a new scene. I try to respond to unexpected changes with yes and, which is one of the first rules of improv. The rule of yes and is all about acknowledging the present situation and reacting. For example, if your scene partner says, "It's a rainy day," you say, "Oh yes, it's another day in Seattle. Do you want a cup of tea?" Or something like that. I find myself collaborating and improvising with life, and little games happen throughout my day, especially when I'm driving. For example, if I see one person driving like a fool and not using their turn signals, there are usually more people driving like that the rest of my commute. These games also happen a lot when I'm on a walk and browsing the little free library boxes. I love the serendipity of thinking about a particular topic and then seeing the perfect book on that topic front and center of the pressed against the glass of the little free library. Or one time, while feeling particularly moody about my music career, I was poking around a little free library and found a greeting card that said, "Follow your passion." And it had like a little lighthouse and everything. I realize these moments are also part of some sort of confirmation bias thing and part of my very human need to make stories and connections but it's comforting. I've always loved these signs and signals, but I've become more aware and more grateful for them since my mom passed in 2016. Now, I won't get too deep into the feelings of that experience. That's a whole other sermon. But part of my reflection over the past few years has been thinking about how my mom related to her spirituality versus how I do, and how our different ways of seeing the world intersect. My mom was a more humanistic, atheistic flavored Unitarian, and honestly, we had some hard conversations as I was discovering that I was more theistically minded. But one thing we agreed on is a love of seeing patterns and connections. My mom believed in creative problem solving, both in her work as a computer programmer, but also in her hobbies. She was an avid quilter and loved putting different patterns and colors together, and would talk about getting into the zone of what the quilt wanted to be. She also had a knack for words, a witty sense of humor, and was someone who, to use her words, had been to hell and back and knew all the good restaurants along the way. I think this philosophy of being able to know about these pit stops on the way to hell and look for the joy in the midst of struggle was her version of dealing with life's rickrolls. About a week after my mom passed, I was back in Chicago for a couple days before traveling back to Iowa for her funeral. I hadn't slept much, and my mind was in a constant state of creative escapism. I was going for a walk by the beach, and I was on the phone with a friend, and I had been reflecting on my mom's love of quilting, and all of these things were swirling in my mind, and as I was walking down the beach, I noticed a ratty piece of quilt sitting on a bench. And my first thought was, she didn't believe in this stuff, and now she's sending me quilts. This was a moment of comfort and relief and deep spiritual connection. I took it as a sign that she had made it to whatever the afterlife is and that she was okay, and her sense of humor crossed over with her. I liked the idea of my super atheist mother showing up in the afterlife and engaging spooky nonsense, like sending me a quilt because she could. Maybe it was a sign, maybe it was just what I needed at the time. It can be both. But I said yes to making meaning of this random occurrence. It's not always easy to say yes and to life, especially when what you're reacting to is messy and complicated and still taking shape. Sometimes all that can be said is, yes, this is a thing that is happening, and I feel sad. Sometimes it's hard to even get the yes, and the and is something you can't make meaning of until years later. But there is comfort in accepting the moment and looking for the joy. So I continue to improvise with the universe and try making meaning from the patterns as I go along. I continue to look for the little games I can play with the synchronicities and find comfort in the fact that, yes, I have been to hell and back, and I know some of the good restaurants along the way. And when life takes a turn and I'm suddenly hearing the metaphorical voice of Rick Ashley, I just dance along.
Thank you, Gail. Hello, everyone. My name is Elaine Golden, and I'm a young adult member of 2U. This morning, I'd like to share with you how I've used stand-up comedy to move through a hard time in my life, a time that felt like a big Rickroll from the universe. When I was in graduate school, I had a very unexpected mental health crisis. Those are hard to schedule, though. I was getting my master's degree in public policy at the time, and I really loved it. I felt at home in my classes, but in my personal life, things were not good. I had had a year filled with a lot of personal loss, including the death and illness of multiple immediate family members. And the stress of that was catching up to me. I started having a hard time focusing on schoolwork and could barely sleep or keep my cool. For multiple nights, I laid in a warm bath trying to coax my brain into slowing down. I yelled at a classmate in our student lounge and then stormed out crying because he disagreed with me about a theory of grief. I lost interest in classes and my appetite was here and there. At times, it felt like the light of my soul had gone out. I remember walking into a sunny courtyard after a class and feeling the heat of the sun on my face. A sense of calm came over me. I had been pretty atheist until that point, but this brief release felt like it might be God. I still couldn't sleep now, but now during my nights lying awake in bed, I physically felt the prayers of others washing over me. I didn't know who they were from, so don't ask me, but they were landing on me. As more thoughts came over me, at a mile a minute, that didn't feel like my own, I realized God was communicating directly to me. When I told a friend about my new connection to God, leaving out some details, she recommended I check out her Christian church. Before I visited, I discovered I was Mary Magdalene. I went to her church, and I let a couple members of her church know that the Bible was missing the book of Mary Magdalene, my book. Things escalated pretty intensely from there, and in a moment of lucidity, I knew I couldn't tell anymore what was real or not, and I wanted help. A friend connected me to a psychiatrist who told me I appeared to be experiencing acute mania, and I took her recommendation to do an inpatient hospital program. After stabilizing there, I went back home to recover. I was lucky to have all the support I did, but I was still overcome with overwhelming shame. Shame about how I had treated people, about my delusions, about needing to be hospitalized. I didn't want to go back to school and face my peers after everything I'd done. It was about this time when I was recovering that a friend shared a YouTube video from comedian Maria Bamford with me. Maria talked about how her experience being hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital. She shared that when she was hospitalized, a therapist at the hospital told her she recognized her but said she wouldn't tell anyone that she saw her there, as if that wouldn't be a HIPAA violation. Maria, though, she replied, "I'm in a gown and a pair of electric green gripper socks that are not my own. You tell whoever you want, because all is lost." I feel bad stealing her joke on stage, but it just happened. It's a great joke. It was a great line. I love that. That moment resonated with me because it hit at a time when I felt like others didn't understand what I had been through. And it reflected the absurdity and heaviness I felt during my hospitalization and recovery. It also reminded me of when I was in the hospital and the staff took the shoelaces from all my sneakers, including my really cool orange and gray basketball shoes that I am wearing today. For the Admiral and at home. Since I couldn't wear those, I spent a lot of time in fuzzy blue socks. You know, who knew actual footwear would be such a difficult thing to come by? Turns out, Maria knew. Her comedy helped me to see that there were a lot of absurd and comical moments in what I'd experienced. In some of my free time of my recovery, I decided to write down some thoughts about my experience. I took them to an open mic and told a crowd of 15 or so people about moments I was ready to laugh about, like how there are different social cliques, like in high school, but in the psych wing of a hospital. I was rolling with the young bipolars, and we were pretty popular. With time, I started finding the humor in even my moments of delusion. I told crowds about when you're hospitalized with delusions of being someone else, no one sends you get well soon cards. But it's probably because they don't know who to make it out to. One thing I tell audiences now is, when I was really manic, I thought I was Mary Magdalene. Easy mistake, am I right? I love this line because most people associate an easy mistake with something like accidentally leaving the door unlocked, not a temporary visit to another reality. I love the understatement of it. I also love this line because, as those of you who have experienced delusions or hallucinations might know, it really was an easy mistake for me. It just happened. And telling this line over and over again allowed me to deeply understand in my body and my recovering mind that it wasn't something I chose. It allowed me to breathe out of my body much of the shame I felt. I returned to school for the final semester of my master's degree, and when the annual talent show came around, I performed a short stand-up set to 10 or so classmates, which included some jokes about my manic episode. That school, that place I was so hesitant to return to because of the shame I had felt around my experience, was now the same place I was ready and excited and a little nervous to share my experience. Stand-up has been such a meaningful tool of resilience for me. Some people say laughter is the best medicine, but I'm a pretty big fan of lithium. But as part of a broader system of support, humor was deeply healing and helped me feel less shame by showing me examples of people who had made it through similar mental health moments and were able to laugh about it. I hope in the hard times of life, in moments of illness, grief, or shame, you can lighten the load you're carrying by finding the humor in the experience when you're ready. Whether through online videos, live shows, or even taking to the stage yourself, I hope the moments of humor you find take away some feelings of isolation or shame and add comfort and connection. Please join me now in singing our closing hymn, When the Spirit Says Do.
Right. That's the thing we were talking about.
You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 You gotta sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing, oh Lord. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You gotta dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance, oh Lord. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you gotta laugh, oh Lord. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 You gotta shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you gotta shout, oh Lord. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You gotta do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
I invite you to cross your hands over your hearts for our benediction.
When you find yourself rickrolled by the universe, it can take time to find the humor.
Whether or not you believe things happen for a reason, how we make meanings of those challenges over time can change.
Humor can change how you make meaning of the hard moments or how you handle those moments in the moment.
Whether you're team improv or team stand-up, we hope you laugh when the Spirit says laugh.
May it be so.